Are you looking to grow revenues, increase profitability, or obtain financing? If so, you came to the right place.
Running a business is all about leadership. How do you become a better leader? Learn from the successful entrepreneurs and business owners how to lead your organization more effectively. That's why we created Leadership Live at 8:05, Talking Small Business, to help you succeed with your host, Andrew Frazier, Business Growth Pro and CFO and founder of the Small Business Pro University. Every Tuesday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern, we're joined by experienced entrepreneurs and business owners who share their secrets to success via live stream. Also, every Friday morning, we release a new podcast episode. Either way, you will learn about developing your business leadership skills from our roster of highly performing guest experts. Leadership Live is one of the many valuable resources provided through the Small Business Pro University, empowering business owners to learn, profit, and grow. Find out more at sbpro.u.com.
Good evening and welcome to Leadership Live at 8:05, Talking Small Business. I'm your host, Andrew Frazier, and excited to be back here once again on Tuesday evening to really talk about small business and strategies for how you can become a better leader. Because at the end of the day, your success in business is going to be based on your ability to lead your organization. So that's why I bring on guests who have significant experience leading an organization, running a business, and especially have an understanding of small business, because small business, what works in big businesses isn't always what will work in smaller businesses. So that's why we do this. So I invite you to ask questions, feel free to post comments, and we look forward to having an interactive session this evening. This week, my guest is Avis Rivers Yates, or Avis Yates Rivers, sorry about that. And she's really been in business for many years and has been extremely successful, especially in the arena of contracting, both corporate and government. And that can be a challenge for a lot of business owners to break into it and understand whether they should be doing it and how to do it right. So that's what we're going to talk about this evening. So I'm going to bring on Avis and we'll get started. Hey, good evening, Avis. How are you doing this evening?
Andrew, I'm great. It's good to be here.
Okay, excellent. So thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule. I know you're always in demand and doing a lot of stuff. So appreciate you taking time to hang out with me this evening and chat and share some of your expertise with other business owners who could benefit from it.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Yeah, it's one of the things I love to do, and that is share experiences with business owners who are either in business for a while or desirous of becoming business owners, and just understanding what some of the challenges, pitfalls, and the exceptional highs are in on this journey. Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Yeah. So, definitely it's a journey and you're learning every step of the way. But, the more you learn sooner, the less pitfalls you fall in. So
that's right. You're going to fail, so might as well fail fast and get on with it, right?
Yeah. So, you've done some great things, and but I can't do them justice. So I'm going to let you talk a little bit about your journey, sort of where you came from, how you got to where you are, and sort of where you are and what you're doing now. Fair enough?
Absolutely. Thank you. Okay. I appreciate the opportunity. So as Andrew has said, I'm Avis Yates Rivers. I'm the CEO of Technology Concepts Group International. We are a New Jersey headquartered firm, but very, very remote these days since the pandemic, and actually enjoying it. So we'll probably continue along this vein for a while. But my journey started, I'll just say, a couple of decades ago. How about that? You can find all of the different twists and turns of my journey just by following the hair. It has changed dramatically over the years, even from that picture on Andrew's intro. So my journey started off in New York City, where I'm from, corporate America. Went to school in the city, and started my corporate journey with internships during my college years. I did 3 internships with Exxon Corporation, and they hired me upon graduation. So that company is where I thought I would be until retirement, because it was so large and so complex, and I got a chance to see very many pieces of it. But toward the end of my journey, I realized that no matter what position I was in, and what responsibilities I had, I never really quite felt fulfilled. When they started a technology division in Midtown and then downtown New York, I was placed in that division, was given the opportunity to sell technology to companies in the New York marketplace. And so here I was, young and energetic, and willing to work hard and to learn all that I could and follow the plan. Sales is a formula. And if you do this, this, and this, the results, you can pretty much depend on. And so I followed the plan and was very successful in selling technology on Wall Street as African American and female, young, technology for a company named Exxon Corporation. Yeah, that Exxon, right? And the largest company in the world during my entire tenure there. And they decided to put venture capital money into technology projects, and then to bring them all together into a subsidiary back in 19, well, I'm not going to tell you when, back then. And so once they finally realized, yeah, we really are an oil and gas company, and we're going to go back to stick to our knitting, they sold that division. And that's when I launched my first company. I asked Exxon for the install base, and I called upon those customers that I had been selling to and others had been selling to for the last 5 years. And indeed, my first customers were very well recognizable names in the New York, New Jersey market, like AT&T, Exxon themselves, New York Times, and Hoffman LaRoche. And those were my foundational customers. I had something that they needed. And that is the mark of an entrepreneur, is finding a problem to solve and filling a void in the marketplace. And so since Exxon had exited the industry and the company that bought it was just interested in ripping and replacing with their stuff, there was a period of time that customers needed the support to keep their systems running, and we were able to provide that support. And so that gave us a good runway for the first couple of years. And knowing that that was going to be a very limited opportunity, we began to venture into other areas of technology. We were still very much a private sector or corporate supplier. But early on, I decided to enter into the 8A program. And so we did that, and it kind of consumed us, right? As a small business, we were known as the third party maintenance provider in the whole Mid Atlantic Northeast region. And we ultimately had contracts in all 50 states with pretty much all of the defense agencies, but also the Department of Labor, which is in every state. And so we had to establish a network of contractors, subcontractors, employees in every state to respond to the computer repair needs of the Department of Labor. And so while the 8A program and the contracts that we were able to acquire were very good, they pretty much consumed us. There was no doing business in the private sector at that time. And so once we came close to graduating after 9 years, I was ready to go back to corporate America, to be quite honest with you. That's where I'm from. That's the comfort level. And that's where I wanted to go back. And so we were able to secure 2 contracts within corporate America, and were able to go back there. Fast forward to 2008, I launched this current company, and I've had 5 over the years. This current company, because I was given an opportunity to acquire a spinoff from Bank of America. Yeah, that Bank of America. And it was to enter into the equipment leasing side of the technology industry. And they had a small ticket technology equipment leasing division that they were ready to spin off. Corporations do this every day. Things become less core, and germane to where they're going. They may have been fine in the past, but where they're going, they're not as core. And so they look to spin off assets all the time. And as an entrepreneur, we need to prepare ourselves to be able to pick up and acquire those assets. And so I was able to raise the funds, acquire that spinoff, and that was in 2008, the beginning of 2008, right in time for the greatest economic recession of all time. So I had just raised all this money. I had just acquired these people, and nobody was buying, nobody was leasing. They were duct taping those computers and hoping and praying that they'd last for a few more years to get through the recession. And so, that was a critical moment in our journey. And we've had many of those. 9/11 was one, and WorldCom's largest corporate bankruptcy of all time was another one. So you have to be prepared that these things that are outside of your control are going to happen. And the key to true success as an entrepreneur is our response to it. The pandemic is just the most recent one, but we've had to overcome major shifts and disruptions in business, in the economy, as long as I've been in business. And so, sometimes we scraped ourselves out of the hole with our fingers and our fingernails, and other times we were able to exit that downturn a little bit more gracefully, but we did it each and every time. And so I'm standing here today, 14 years later, recognizing some of the fastest growth that we've had in a very long time, outside of the 2015 to 17 period of time when we were named the third fastest growing woman-owned business in the country. So it's been a journey, Andrew, and it ain't over yet. And I'm enjoying it. It hasn't been easy, but I'm enjoying it because never again can I say that I'm not fully fulfilled.
Okay, excellent. No, I mean, definitely, I learned some things in your walk as well. This was great. And, you've done some tremendous things over the years. So definitely, applaud what you've done, and you're not stopping now. So
no, not yet. I still got a little gas in the tank left.
Yes. Yeah. So I didn't realize you had 5 companies. So definitely, I guess when you see opportunities, you go after them.
Yeah, and some of them were for a specific reason, right? For a specific period of time. And once that was over, then I closed them or merged them into another one. So this one that I launched in 2008 is the same company that I had prior, but it was a services firm. But since we were going to be dealing in high finance, I thought it best to just establish a whole new entity.
Okay.
But I merged the services company into it.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So so you've done contracting on the government side, the corporate side. You've had a lot of experience doing that. But you also came out of corporate with an understanding of what it is and how it works. A lot of people don't have that experience. So, before, initially, if you don't know anything about contracting, what are a couple of the key things that you should definitely know?
Well, business is based on revenue, and nobody's just going to hand you a bucket of money. You've got to sell something, right? Product, service, expertise. You have to be able to sell it, and that's all contracting is to encourage some entity to buy what it is that you have to sell. And so, going back to my sales 101 days, Exxon taught me very well the art of the sale. It's an art, and it's negotiations are part of that. But understanding what your value proposition is and how to position it in the marketplace, meaning how do you price it? Who are your competitors, and how are you positioned competitively amongst those competitors? Because in tight markets, whether it's economic markets or labor markets or supply chain tightness of the marketplace today, what is going to distinguish you from your competitors and why you. I always end presentations with why TCGI? Why should you buy from me? And you have to be able to really succinctly tell that story and give that message in such a compelling way that someone is going to choose to buy from you. And so the things that I learned early on were, first of all, you have to build a rapport, because you've heard that old adage, people buy from people they know and like. And that's still very true today. So you have to have a personality, or at least have someone on your team that has that inherent personality that can engage with any kind of person, any kind of mood, any kind of personality on any given day to get your message across and to be successful. So I think I was prepared extremely well, because New York City, I had a vertical territory and I came in green, had never sold before. And I was given, just a couple of blocks, but my buildings were very tall. I did have One World Trade Center and American Stock Exchange back then, and total buildings through which I can go and knock on every door. This was pre-terrorism, right? So it was not unusual for me to be in a single building all day. They said you got to knock on every door. Well, I was young and dumb and energetic then. I knocked on every door. But you had to prepare yourself for who was on the other side. There were lots of secretaries, receptionists back then. And I was an anomaly on Wall Street. There weren't a lot of people who looked like me on Wall Street. And so I had to steel myself, not knowing what I was going to encounter behind door number 1, 2, or 3, but making sure that I was prepared to respond appropriately. And I did exceedingly well. I was Rookie of the Year, and I exceeded quota every year because, number one, I love people. Number two, I love to talk. So, Andrew, you jump on in there when you need to. And those are two key characteristics and skill sets that you need to be successful in contracting.
Okay, no, definitely. One thing I always say is, when I'm working with business owners, I ask them what their most important job is. And many times they don't get the right answer.
Right.
But, at the end of the day, I've found that it's marketing and sales.
That's right.
So you may have gone into any business, but your job as a business owner is to market and sell. So
That's right.
if you don't
And
know
even
that,
from the early days, I'm still the chief revenue generator.
yep.
No matter how many salespeople I've hired over the years, I'm still the one bringing in the most revenue and the bigger deals.
Yep.
Mhm.
And that's the responsibility of the business owner. So
Right.
So that's cool. And you talked about they need to know you and like you, and we usually call it the KLT. They also have to trust you. So
right.
those are the three things that give you a shot at having
That's
people
right.
buy from you.
That's right. And building that rapport, taking the time, like don't have a transactional mindset. This is not a one and done. I don't want a single transaction from a customer. I want to build a relationship, and that starts with building the trust, but also building the rapport, and then earning the right to be in their office, or in this case, on their computer. Everyone is busy. Why should someone give you the time? Because they know they're about to be sold. Even though I'm a salesperson, I don't like to be sold. Let me get to my conclusions. Give me the information that I need, and then let me draw my own conclusions. And so, because I know that's how I am, I'm assuming other folks are like that too. And so, I'm not coming in with guns a-blazing. I am coming in and I choose to become a trusted advisor.
Mm-hmm.
First.
And
Mhm.
it's about relationships. You need that in any business, but I would think even more so in contracting. Have you
Yeah.
found,
Mhm.
just because it takes longer to get a contract, so
It does.
you have to build rapport and build your relationship over time.
Yes.
And
And then in today's economy, Contracting with, we serve as large corporations and still some state governments, but not federal anymore. But there's such an extended onboarding process, right? So even if someone wants what you have, it can take months for you to get through that process and be vetted to become a supplier to that major corporation in our case. And we've been onboarding some folks now at one major corporation in New York City for 4 months. 4.
Yes. So definitely you need to have patience. And, that brings me to, an important thing is not every business should be or is ready to do contracting. So if you're going to do some contracting, what are some things that you need to have in place, or what should you be putting in place to position yourself to be able to better do that?
And let's make sure that the audience understands what you mean when you say contracting, right? Can you just explain what you mean when you say contracting? Because they may be thinking that, okay, so I don't need to actively sell. And that's not what you're saying at all.
Right. And I'd say more, if you want to have, and maybe it's two different things. Maybe it's, if you want to have, be a viable supplier for corporations and get a corporate contract, what do you have to have in place, or what do you need to do to be ready? And the same question on the government side, because it may be different things.
Yeah, they are two different things. Yes.
Okay. So yeah, if you could give us, if you were going to go back into it and start over, what would you tell yourself to do?
I would make sure that we have our foundation set. Even today, we are continually building on that foundation. It never ends, it never stops. But if you can get your foundation set early, then it's easier to just add to it. And what do I mean by foundation? You have those relationships in place, like your attorney that can review the contracts that are coming in the door that you are securing. You really, in the early days, want a legal review of those contracts to make sure that they're not onerous on you as a small business owner. There's a lot of contracts that we review internally now that we don't necessarily need a legal review on. There's some that we do, but not all of them that we do now, because we know what's going to be in that contract. We know whose favor it's going to be in, and we know those areas that we want to negotiate. And they're typically insurance levels and mutual liability, indemnity, because a lot of times contracts are written for the indemnification of the customer. But I always want to make sure that it's mutual indemnification in that contract, so that they can't do anything that will hurt us, just like they don't want us to do anything that might hurt them. This whole cyber piece is very critical right now in contracting. And so having that attorney initially, really understanding and helping you understand what's in those contracts, what to expect, what you should push back on, etc., is important. That's part of your foundation. Another one is how to price your product and service. That's really, really key. We're finding when the economy gets tight, some companies are willing to buy the business, which means that they will offer it at below their cost. That's a very unsustainable business model. Don't do that. And so understanding with your accountant, your CFO, et cetera, whoever is helping you with the numbers, understanding what your SG&A is, right? What is your overhead, and how much of a percentage of that should you apply to each and every contract as part of your pricing? And then what is your gross profit margin target? And how do you apply that? And so really understanding your numbers and your business and what you need to be successful and profitable is another foundation. And then I talked about before, insurance levels. No matter what size business you are, you want to make sure that you're fully insured. And so I think right now we have 5 or 6 different classifications of insurance, from, just your liability to your umbrella to your auto to your professional liability, what they call errors and omissions, because we do consulting as well as contracting. And then cyber. Today, cyber is critical. It's expensive insurance, but every corporation insists that we have that. Crime, crime in case any employee or internal member of the team does something wrong, or, guarding against cyber attacks, data privacy. All of that is very, very key in today's contracting life cycle.
Okay,
Mhm.
no, that's insightful. I mean, definitely, you know, one of the things in contracts is, signing the wrong contract can put you out of business.
That's right.
Um, and a lot of times you may not know the language, or you may
Mhm.
assume something means something, but that may
Mhm.
not mean it does. So,
Right. That's
you
why you
know,
need that attorney to
yeah,
review it.
right.
Mhm.
And I guess probably also not just any attorney, but someone who's understands the business that you're in. Uh,
Absolutely.
so
Mhm.
okay, and
Mhm.
and then also, when you're looking at pricing, you mentioned that there's a lot of factors that go into it,
Right.
and it's important to do all, to really go
Mhm.
through and understand your pricing. So,
Mhm. And
um,
you really don't want to be in a position where everything is going to be dependent on price, right?
mhm,
That is not the position that you want to be in. And if you find yourself there, it means that you haven't really explained and gotten across your value,
yeah,
right? So I don't feel compelled to be the lowest price. I want to be the best value. And there's a
mhm.
difference there.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and a lot of times as a small business owner, your costs are going to be higher. So if
Right.
your costs are higher and you have the lowest price, you're really cutting out all of your profits.
That's right.
Um,
Mhm.
so so yeah, so that's so a couple things you talked about was insurance and other things. And I guess if you're going to contract, you really have to be more formalized
That's
as
right.
a business
That's
and
right.
as a business owner,
Mhm.
to be able to take on that responsibility. What other sorts of things, in addition to insurance, are they expecting you to have in place and expecting from you?
There are several industries that are really focused today on governance. And we, as small businesses, must make sure that our governance is tight. We recently went through a third party assessment for the financial services industry because we service big banks. And, what it did was help us to identify where we may have some gaps. And this is in policies and procedures and the management of those and the training of the staff on those and the regular annual review and editing of those. And so it's important to have your policies and procedures written, communicated, reviewed, and updated as part of normal business. And so there has to be somebody on the team, whether it's you or someone else, that has to be part of their responsibility, their job function, because there are some companies that you have to provide evidence. Just recently, and going through some onboarding, we had to provide evidence of all of our policies. And this ranges from employee handbook type policies like sexual harassment, etc., to incident response and um, business continuity and training and data protection. We have now in excess of 20 something written communicated policies that we have to be able to demonstrate and share with those who we want to do business. And that is becoming increasingly important because if you've heard of the term ESG, a lot of companies now are very focused on their ESG initiative, environmental, social, and governance. And we also went through an ESG initiative over the last couple of months as well. So it doesn't matter how long you've been in business, for a short period of time or for decades, like me, this is going to be important because of the age in which we live, right? It may not have been important 20 years ago, 25 years ago, but in the new heightened state of cyber terrorism and cyber attacks, it is critical, and no corporation is going to allow us to just waltz on in, no matter how we look, and do business with them unless those areas are tight, documented, and demonstrable.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So definitely a higher level of formality, and it requires an investment
Yes.
to do those things. You can't just come in to business. I mean, you were fortunate that you came from corporate so that you understood what they needed, and you worked, so you had saved some money, I'm sure. And so
Never enough, Andrew. You know
it
that.
is
It's
never
never enough money. Doesn't they kill you when all the M&A folks out there say there's tons of money on the street? Well, where is it? It doesn't get to our communities too often,
right.
unfortunately. Mm-hmm.
So okay, cool. So we got a lot of stuff going on. Definitely, we're going to take a quick break. One of the things we do here is, through my Small Business Pro University, we educate entrepreneurs so that they can learn, grow, and profit. And this show is one piece of the offerings that we do. So just want to share a quick minute so people know exactly what the Small Business Pro University is, and then we'll come back with more questions. Do you own your business, or does it own you? Is your business growing, and are you making enough money? As a business owner, there are so many things you need to know to become more successful. Hello, my name is Andrew Frazier, the Business Growth Pro and CFO. I created the Small Business Pro University for you. Small Business Pro University has self-paced, dynamic, multimedia learning experiences created by more than 20 instructors who are business owners just like you. Small Business Pro University will empower you to become a masterpreneur by learning the secrets to creating a successful enterprise, to go from working in your business to working on your business. Take advantage of our strategic coaching program, or just simply choose the courses that you need at www.sbprou.com. We will empower you to thrive and not just survive, and make more money in any business environment. Great.
Very cool.
Back. I'm here with Avis Yates Rivers, and we're talking small business, really talking about contracting and some of the secrets to success, because Avis, you've been had a chance to work on it and work with contracts in all different types of areas. We talked a little bit about your relationships and other things in the business. We have a question from Daryl, and he's asking, what are some of the methods you use to being able to maintain your contract business? Because contracts do end, but how do you continue to maintain them, and what are some strategies that people can employ to do that?
Okay, Darryl, if I'm understanding your question correctly, if you have a business that you have multiple contracts that you have to manage, right, throughout their life cycle. Contracts have a life cycle just like everything else, from the creation and authoring and generation of it, through renewals, through termination or their natural end, through option years and renewal years. And so we are a technology firm, and we use technology for everything. And so one of the tools that we employ is a full life cycle contract management system. All of our contracts are housed in its repository. We also have a clause repository, a clause library, so that we can easily put contracts together for when we are subcontracting or when we are looking for suppliers from whom to provide us goods and services. And so this contract system is cloud-based, and people have access to it. They can request a contract, and it's from everything from an NDA. We don't do anything. We may talk a few times, but then a non-disclosure agreement has to be executed by both parties before we can share too much data. So that's another tip. Don't give away all of your secrets and your secret sauce. Make sure if you're working with a potential customer or a potential partner or subcontractor that you put a non-disclosure agreement in place first. It's a 1-pager, 2-pager, doesn't have to be a heavy lift, and you can do that yourself. But make sure that that's in place before you go too far into the conversation. Usually after the first conversation, that's the next step for us, and that the NDA will be executed. And then for renewals, we have a calendar of what's renewing when. It's not something that you can just remember or keep in your head, because you really need to be about the business of growing your business. And you can't grow without new contracts or renewal of existing contracts. And so we use technology tool sets for pretty much everything that we do, from financials to customer relationship management to contracting management to project management. It's critical to have these tools in place. And the fact that everything is cloud-based now, then it's not as expensive as it once was. Not to help this company with their brand, because they do well all by themselves. But it used to be that a small business couldn't afford Oracle for their ERP system, their accounting enterprise resource planning system. But today, because they have a cloud-based version, we can. That's what we use. And so it's important to really investigate what is on the market today, and then to find a base platform. That's our platform. That's our foundational system. And a lot of the other systems are integrated into that. We're able to integrate with our client systems, our supplier systems. And so that level of automation really helps to reduce our costs.
Okay. So, I guess one key thing is dates are very important in contracting.
Oh, yes.
Because that could be the difference between you make it or not. And I know Stephanie Burrows.
Oh, my girl. Yes, we used to work together at TCGI.
Okay. Excellent. And she's been a guest, and one of the things she always says is read everything and reread it so that you understand it inside and out. So, so definitely you can't remember all that stuff, but you want to set up processes so that you don't miss important things.
And you also want to recognize your lane, right? I remember I used to bring contracts home and just hand them to my husband. I'm like, here, sweetie, have at it. I'm not that one who's going to read every word and read. I don't have that long of an attention span, and it's just, I'll fall asleep, right? So know the lane that you're in. What do you do well? And what can you engage others to do that can complement what you do well?
Okay, cool. So no, definitely that's important. We've got a couple more questions. So I'm sure Jeff Dunn.
Hey, Jeff. How are you, Jeff? Jeff, I live down here with your sister now. We're having fun.
So cool. So, definitely, he knows firsthand, some of the things that you've done. But how is it different? What are some of the key differences in doing business earlier on and doing business now?
Yeah. How dare you take me back to the 80s, Jeffrey? You and I will talk. But he's right, because he was right along with us as a toddler there. It was much different. I would say that the whole climate was different, which made it easier to access businesses. Like I said before the terrorist attacks in New York City, I could walk into any business, any company, any building, and I could spend a day there, and I would, and I'd knock on every door and introduce myself, and you know, message what I had to talk about. And so that made it a lot more accessible. Today, hey there. Today it's very, very difficult. Number one, when I was in corporate America, every floor had a receptionist. There are no more receptionists anymore. You walk in the door of a business and there was someone at the front desk. There's not a lot of that anymore. And you can't even walk into the businesses right now. And so you have to be so strategic and so creative and figure out ways to still do business even though you don't have access to the business. And so what we've done over the years is we've engaged in networks, right? We're certified by NMSDC and WeBank as minority and women owned. We've been in the 8A program. We're members of the African American Chamber of Commerce of New Jersey and the Regional Business Partnership in Newark. And so by engaging in these networks, it gives you access to other members, right? They're always holding events and forums, whether they're in person or virtual, but being there and showing up over and over and over again is what gets you known. And people need to know you. We talked about that at the very beginning. And it also gives you an opportunity to give back, right? And so I've served on more boards and councils than I can remember. Still
Okay.
do. But it's important to be able to give back and to serve the community in which your base or which you live. And so to me, that is very important. And I'm actually in that stage of my career where I'm more about my purpose and my passion and being very intentional about how I spend my time and how I can leave an impact for those who look like me, who are coming behind me and want to be in technology also. And so hence the book covers on the back wall, and hence the foundation, the TCGI Foundation, the scholarships and all of that type of work. And so it's different, but as you age and you mature, hopefully your network has aged and matured and expanded, and you'll be able to leverage that network for years and years to come.
Okay.
Mhm.
Well, great. I mean, definitely, um, relationships are key in everything
Mhm.
that you do. Um, with what you're doing, you talked about MSDC and other organizations.
Mhm.
I think that because you had a sales career, you sort of understood what you needed to do and how to sell and how to build relationships. Um,
Right.
but one of the things, a lot of business owners have never sold before.
Mm.
And one of the key things I always try and reinforce is people aren't going to buy from you the first time they meet you. And
Right.
usually it's going to take 7 to 12 touches before they even buy from you. So,
Mhm.
understanding how to build relationships and do that. How do you do that when going from, if you meet somebody, what do you do to follow up with them? And, how often or how do you build a relationship?
Yeah. And you just said something that is very key. I mean, it's no different on Madison Avenue. Why do we have to watch the same commercials over and over and over again? Because it takes so many touches of that message for it to really get internalized and acted upon. And so if big corporations have to spend millions and millions of dollars for their messaging, we have to do something. We're not going to spend millions of dollars. So what can we do? Most of what we can do is exercise our presence, right? And so I show up. I've also always showed up. I remember, I forgot his name, but he was in state government. He was a Hispanic gentleman, and I'll think of his name tomorrow. And he was speaking at an event, and I was going to every event that I could in the early days, because if that's how I felt like I needed to build my network. And he looked over and saw me, and he was at the podium. He said, Avis, you're here. You're like rice. We as Hispanics, we eat rice at every meal, and you're like rice. You're at everything. So I'll never forget that. I forgot who said it, but I'll never forget that. You have to show up. You have to be seen. You have to become known. And so I do that through the networks that I have been a part of for many, many years. These are not new relationships. And so I am blessed that I'm able to pick up the phone and call the presidents of these organizations now, because I have served their organization by giving of my time and talent and resources on their board, or sponsoring their programs, or buying tickets for their events. So you have to give in order to receive. That's an old adage. It has not changed. It is, and it is more blessed to give than to receive, because the more you give, the more you receive. And so you have to be present. You have to show up, and you have to give back. And that's what I do.
Okay, great. So, you got to show up, and you can't just stand in the corner. You have to meet people.
That's right.
And
And you have to ask them, how can I help? How can I assist you? What are you into? That's the key to networking. It's not like, hi, here I am. This is my name. This is my business. And this is what I do. Do you need any of it? But rather do more listening than talking, and asking them, okay, that's an interesting idea. How can I help you with that? People will remember that more than somebody trying to sell them something.
Yes. And one of the things I have people I work with do is read Dale Carnegie and his How to Win Friends and Influence People, because he has some great strategies, and just little things can make all the difference in the world. But
like just a quick story, the manager of my bank, and I live in the South now, so it's a little different, but you get to know the manager of your bank. And so he told me last week that he was retiring. He's the only person I know there, and he has set up a lot of things for me locally that I brought down from New Jersey. And I'm thinking, oh no, what am I going to do? But he told me he was going to be renovating a property in Maine during the summers, because it's hot down here. So I'll go up and do that. And so today I went by, and I just wanted to give him a card with a little Home Depot gift card, something for the renovation, and wishing him success in his retirement. And he said he will never forget that. He will do something special with that little Home Depot, gift card. And he's going to make sure that I know about what that special thing is. And so it's really about how you make people feel genuinely, right? I didn't do it for any reason. I don't need to know what you're going to do with it. I just wanted to let him know that I appreciated all of his support in getting me established with my banking relationship down here in South Carolina. And, it really touched him. And it made me feel good. That's what it is. That's the blessing in giving. I received a real positive response from him, and that's all I need. I don't need anything else. I didn't do it to get anything. And that's how we should approach business, doing it because either people are in need, or you just want someone to feel special, because they are. They'll never forget that. And that's one way to build relationships.
Okay. No, key. And one of the things about relationships you mentioned is it doesn't happen overnight. One thing I remember, I was a member of a chamber, and it seemed like I wasn't really getting traction. But like after I was there for 2 years, people were like, "Oh yeah, by the way, who are you? What do you do again?" Because there's so many people who go into business and don't make it or disappear. So a lot of times people want to see if you're serious, and if you're going to hang around. So keep that in mind. Don't get discouraged because things don't happen fast enough.
Right.
Sometimes it takes a little time.
Always, it takes a while, and the larger you get, the longer time it takes, right? And that's just the nature of the beast.
Mm-hmm.
People ask me, well, when does it get easier? And my response is, while some things get a little easier, like I don't have to prove myself, I just have to show up or get invited to something, but things just change. They don't necessarily get easier or harder, they just get different, right? And so the larger you are, just think about it, the larger the issues and the challenges and the hurdles to overcome. It's not that, money, for example. There were days when I didn't know how I was going to make payroll or pay this bill or pay that bill. We all go through it. We all go through it. Unless somebody is handing you a bucket of money right from the beginning, we're all going to experience those kinds of challenges. And as you mature and you move forward and you grow and you learn things, that might not be my challenge for today, but how am I going to acquire that next company? Where am I going to get that equity from? Right? That people say is all around me. Where is that going to come from, which will allow me to acquire, because I've acquired two companies already. And both of them were majority owned firms. And I like acquiring white male owned firms and bringing them in and it becoming part of this minority woman owned business enterprise as a way to grow. So it's not always just trying to grow organically, but we also have to consider the pathways to inorganic growth. And there are firms out there, I jest, but there are firms out there who are looking to invest in diverse companies and help them to grow with acquisition strategies. So it's a process. It really is. But you get to a point where there's no turning back. Once you continue to dump everything into this, there's no option. Failure is not an option. Stopping, giving up, not an option. Not if you want to continue to eat. I like to eat. So
and have
no
a roof
option.
over your head. So definitely that. So, one thing that's key, and a lot of times, diverse business owners, may not appreciate, and I sort of learned this in corporate, is, because you're different, you stand out and you get noticed.
Yeah.
Which could be a blessing or a curse,
Yeah.
depending on how good of a job you do it.
Yeah. Use that to your advantage. I've always used it to my advantage.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
and own it. Don't try and hide it. There's a difference between wearing my race and my gender on my sleeve to embracing it and owning it and being overly comfortable in it, in the skin, and using it as my advantage. People ask, well, what distinguishes you from the I got some answers for that, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it makes you memorable.
Yes.
They may not remember most of the people at the event, but
Right.
they're most likely going to remember you. Maybe
Yeah.
not remember what you said, but if they see you again, they'll remember that they
Yeah.
met you. So
Yeah.
so that's
Hence
cool.
the blonde hair these days.
That makes you stand out even more.
I've tried it all.
Okay.
Long, short, red, black.
All right. So now that's cool. So I got a question from
You have to have
Alejandra.
fun on this journey.
Yeah. You be comfortable with who you are. So
Mm-hmm.
okay. So we talked a little bit about contracting, but more on the corporate side. So now with the government, what are some of the thoughts that, if you're looking to try and do government contracting, what are some things that you should be thinking about if you're just starting to look at that?
Yeah, thank you for that question, Alejandra. It is different. When we got into the 8A program, we didn't realize how different an animal that was going to be. Most government agencies are headquartered in the DC area, and they are surrounded by legions of 8A firms. So why would they trip over them to come up to New Jersey and find us? And so what we ultimately did was we opened up an office locally there. I hired a contractor down there whose sole responsibility was business development, use his relationships to get us in front of the OSDBUs. Everything's an acronym. So you got to learn the acronym, the OSDBUs, Office of Small Business Development, something. And these are the people now that you had to build relationships with, and every agency has them. I know that the NJIT has a technical PTAC, is it called? I think at
Yeah.
NJIT, and that's what they do. They provide that assistance to firms who are looking to do government contracting, and that's a good point, because in the beginning, when I was just starting out, I leveraged every resource, every free resource there was, every one of them, from MBDA to SBDC in New Jersey to PTAC. It wasn't called PTAC then, but it's called PTAC now. And all of these resources are there to help small businesses to get into business. And that, in their case, it's government contracting. So we started with local government contracting. Don't forget your counties and municipalities and the state. We didn't just jump right to the federal government. We kind of ate locally for a while. And even now, we still do lots of business with the state of Pennsylvania. Nothing in New Jersey right now, and looking to get back into the state of New York and the city of New York. We've got some open opportunities there now as well. And so, what I found, if you're thinking about federal, Alejandra, you really need to engage someone who's very, very familiar with that market and has relationships already there, because there's lots of us in the 8A program banging on those same doors. And so you need someone who can cut through the clutter. And I hired a contractor, which meant that I didn't pay him a salary. I paid him a success fee. So look to make those kinds of deals. If when he's successful in bringing business, he's going to be able to share in that success. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. And I guess definitely federal's probably not the place to get your first contract.
No. No. And even after being in the 8A program for a while, I think we were in there a year before we got our first contract. So once you're in there and you get that first contract, it's easier because you're able to show a track record, and they like the government track record and qualifications and capability statement. There's a whole nother piece of the business that you have to develop and stand up and be prepared to demonstrate while you're there. Start with some subcontracting to government primes. We did a lot of that as well. Even in the state of New York, we subcontracted to WorldCom, and then became Verizon. And we've subcontracted with lots of firms over the years in government. And that's how we will continue to do federal government, right? We graduated many years ago. And unless there's we carry a government certification, a WOSB, but we're really not actively engaged in pursuing federal government business. There's a lot of business out here.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, so definitely, that's key. So, an hour goes like too fast. So
we're clearly not there yet, are we? Yes,
we got a minute.
It's my bedtime.
So, but before we close out, actually, Jeff has a question, but we may just touch that real quick. But on gatekeepers, some aren't the same, and I guess maybe this is more of a comment than a question, but definitely, your relationships are key, and sometimes if you don't ask, you don't get. So
that's right. That's right. And if you establish relationships well enough, people will, like Jeff says, anticipate your needs or ask how they can help you. But again, that takes time. That happens over time, because they have a lot of, and in defense of gatekeepers, everybody's banging on them, banging on their doors. Thousands and thousands of us are trying to get in there, and they just can't keep up with that demand. But I know a lot of them don't even respond. They just are so overwhelmed, they don't even respond. And that's unacceptable. Yeah, we're just as busy, if not more so than you are. And the least you can do is say, no, go away, but at least respond, So the gatekeeper, you have to understand who they are, what makes them tick, what's important to them. I always find out what's important to the gatekeeper. How can I make you a hero? How can I make your life easier? And it could be something very simple. It could be. So just build that relationship with them. Some
Okay.
people are doing a job, some people have a job, some people, are pursuing their passion. Mhm.
Okay, cool. So, definitely a request for overtime, but
Daryl,
you know,
please ask us
um,
for overtime.
we're going to respect your time because you were nice enough to give it to us. But, before we go, is there anything that you want to leave people with, or something that, they should probably start thinking about or doing tomorrow based on what we discussed?
If you are not the salesperson, which means if you are the technical person, the engineer, the inventor, or whatever, please engage a salesperson. And again, the best salespersons, I feel, are those who work on commission. Whatever the situation is economically, try and figure out a way that you all can both survive and eat and thrive in business together. If you are looking to start a business, is it better to maybe engage with another existing small business and come together? One of the only things I wish I had done differently, if I had to do it all over again, is that I would have had partners in the beginning. I've never had partners, but just having other skill sets to complement yours, it would be very, very helpful. And sales cannot be underestimated. In fact, on my team, they know everybody is a salesperson, not just me, not just folks in sales. Every one of us is a salesperson, and you have to adopt that mantra. I don't care if they're in their other networks outside of work. Folks need to know who they work for, why they work there, what's so special about it, and how could they possibly help me in my quest for better technology. Mhm.
Okay, excellent. So no, this has been great info. Appreciate you joining us tonight. Definitely in the chat, I shared your LinkedIn profile,
Thank
and
you.
as well, we shared your company website. So, definitely if you want to reach out to Avis, those are the best ways to kind of learn more about her, what she's done, and then, possibly connect with her on LinkedIn, or, work on building relationships. So,
I'd also like to add, I do have a personal website, avishyates.rivers.com, just my name.com, as well as our new charitable foundation website, tcgifoundation.org. Please join me in the quest to break down barriers for Black and brown girls and women in technology. And so we've got a lot of good things going on, something right up in you all's area that you can participate in, especially you golfers and business owners. We're going to be coming together in June, and would love to invite you all to that as well. It's
okay,
all up on tcgifoundation.org.
okay,
Mhm.
cool. And what's your handicap?
It's we coming off of winter, so it's a little high. I think last I looked was 16. Got to get that down to single digits. That's my quest for moving to Hilton Head. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Mhm.
So, no, definitely appreciate it. Great questions, great comments from the audience.
Yes, thank you, audience. You've been great. And it's good to see some friends in that audience too.
Yep,
Mhm.
yep. So
Old
hang
and
on
new.
for a second, and I'll close things out. But definitely been a great session. Thank everybody for joining in again this evening. next week, each week we've been here almost 100 episodes now and haven't missed one single week. And next week we have Adam Rosen as our guest, and he's going to be talking about selling more, easier, faster, and better. He has had his businesses, and he actually helps other business owners really develop their sales skills and their sales teams, because, as we talked about, sales is your most important job. So many business owners have never even really learned how to sell. And, definitely that's something that worth taking the time out to do, because the better you do that, the more successful you're going to be in business. So look forward to having you join us again next week. And, at the end of the day, the more you know, the faster your business will grow. Are you looking to grow?
Thank you for listening to Leadership Live at 8:05, Talking Small Business. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and to the podcast on your favorite podcast platform. Leadership Live is one of the many valuable resources provided through the Small Business Pro University, empowering business owners to learn, profit, and grow. Find out more at sbpro.u.com.